Okay, day 5, question 5. 4 people have used different methods to find the height of a wall. Their results are shown in the table. Order their measurements from greatest to least. The most common way we mess this one up is just by going the opposite. So I always underline a bunch of times. So I'm going from biggest to smallest. So I need to put these numbers in a way that I can compare them all. So I'm going to go with decimals. So I'm going to put in the square root, that's the second button, an x squared of 12. And I need to arrow over so I'm not under the radical anymore, and subtract the 1. So it looks exactly like that. And that's going to give me about 2.46. So this is 2.46. Then 5 halves, that's just, fraction bar just means to divide. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. Well, I'm going to go ahead and write it with a 0 there just to keep everything 2 digits under the decimal. And then Justin, I don't even have to change. All right, Rosa is 1 plus pi, and I can get to pi with the blue second button, and then the caret button gives me pi, and that's going to get divided by 2 because it's a fraction. And that's going to give me about 2.57. All right, so now that I have these all in the same format, I can compare these. So I'm going from greatest to least. Well, the largest one here is going to be Rosa, 2.57. The only answer choice to have that is C. And then the next one would be Byron at 2.5, and then Allie at 2.46, and Justin at 2.25. This is an easy question that sometimes y'all just mess up on because of a simple mistake. So you might even want to write this out in the order that you get it. So we had Rosa, Byron, Allie, and Justin, and compare it up because these are too easy to miss. All right, question 6. The monthly cost of renting a trumpet is modeled in the graph. Which equation best represents the cost Y of renting a trumpet for X months? So our equations are Y is equal to MX plus B, which is on your reference material if you ever forget. And the B is where we begin at that y-intercept. So right here we begin right there. There's our y-intercept. And it's between 30 and 60. So if I'm counting by 15s, this would be 45. So I have a y-intercept of 45. So G, H, and J will work. F will not work. So I need to find the slope. So slope is rise over run, or that change in y over that change in x. Means the same thing. So here's a perfect point. I need to find another perfect point. Right here would be another perfect point. So I need to see how much I'm going up. Well, I'm going to go up from 45 to, again, if I'm counting by 15s, that would be 105. So 105 minus 45 would be 60. And I'm going over 3. And 60 divided by 3 is going to give me 20. So my slope is going to be a slope of 20. So a slope of 20, y-intercept of 45, that makes it J. All right, question 7. Andreas invests $1,000 in a savings account. After 4 years, the account earned a total of $112 simple interest without any additional deposits. What was the interest rate? Well, on your handy-dandy reference material, simple interest, there's a formula. So interest is equal to principal times rate times time. So I'm not solving for interest this time, I'm solving for the rate. The interest is 112. Plug in what we know. The principal is 1,000, and the time is 4 years. So I have to find out what goes in between there. Well, I would hope that you could solve an equation and find it that way, but if not, you can guess and check. So I'm going to go ahead and solve the equation, because that's how I really would like you to do it. 4 times 1,000 is 4,000 R, and that's equal to 112. Divide the 4,000 away to get just the R. So we have 112 divided by 4,000 is 0.028. 0.028. Well, that doesn't exactly match anything because this is my rate as a decimal. When I change it to a percent, it's 2.8%, which is H. But if you don't know how to do this using the equation, you can guess and check. So I'm using the principal of 1,000 times some rate times the time of 4, and I need it to equal 112. Well, I know it's going to be this 2.8, but again, you have to put it as a decimal, so that's 0.28. So when I take 1,000 times it's supposed to be 0.028 times 4 is 112. Forgot my 0 there. All right, so just because I happen to know that, if I didn't, I would have to use all these answer choices till I got the one that equaled 112. All right, number 8 is Pythagorean theorem, and y'all are really good at this. Mrs. Gonzalez wants to string lights along both diagonals of a rectangular window as shown below. What's the minimum length of lights Mrs. Gonzalez will need? All right, so I need to figure out how I'm going to find this information. Well, I have a rectangle, and on this rectangle there is a diagonal. And when I draw a diagonal on a rectangle, I have to know a rectangle happens to have right angles. So one of these is going to give me my right triangle. And across from my right angle is my C. So I have to know I'm going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I have sides of 3 and 4, which hopefully you have done this enough times that you know this is a 3, 4, 5 triangle. But if not, just work it out. 3 squared plus 4 squared is 25. Square root it, which is second, and x squared is 5. All right, so I find out that this side length here, this diagonal, is 5. So I've done all this fabulous work. I'm good at Pythagorean theorem. I see the answer 5 here, but that's not the answer. You have to make sure you answer the question. What is the minimum length of lights Mrs. Gonzalez will need? And Mrs. Gonzalez wants to string lights along both diagonals. So far, I have figured out that that is 5. But I have to do it for 2 diagonals. So each of those is 5. So my answer is going to be that 5 plus 5, which is 10, which is C. So don't get tricked by not doing that last step.